Hi, everybody. Dorothy here, professional astrologer. You can find me on the web, nhastrologer.com, right there. Thank you to my daughter she painted it. Probably going to put some little stars and moons on it at some point in time. My friend Jane Starr did that. I know I have artistic people around me. How about you? If you don't know me, Dorothy, professional. I've been an astrologer, wow, started in 1988. So I've been around a while and I teach. And every week I try to do the best I can to explain to you the astrological energies since things have been shifting so much these last couple of weeks. Never in all my years would I have predicted such a major shift. I mean, I knew we were due for something. Who didn't? Anybody who pays attention to anything knew something was heading our way. But the point is, we can explain it out in the astrology. And, I've done a few Facebook Lives this week, and so go check them out. But the point is like we're in this period of major life changes for all of us. I'm going to talk about the week of March 30th in just a second. But, this overall feeling and this overall energy that's happening for us right now is bringing up a lot of internal insecurities and fears because of Pluto. And Pluto is the slower planet. Well, he's a planet, right? He is. He's a dwarf planet. He keeps getting his status changed. But the point is, he's all about big changes, and they do take significant amount of time. But he's been very, very active since 2008, and especially the last couple of years with Saturn in the sign of Capricorn where he is. And what that means is, so I'm always going to tell you what it means as soon as I say something in astrology. So no need to glaze over. And this is written too. I have the written forecast. It's a couple thousand words, and it's on my website and here on YouTube. The links are below in the information section, so you can always go there and read, because what I write, what I say, are not always exactly the same. So, because I already wrote it. So basically, Pluto in Capricorn and Saturn connecting with it recently, early January, and eclipses near it. And the end of this week coming up, so on April 4th, Jupiter will connect with Pluto. And so Pluto, what is Pluto about? So Pluto, the main things, let me grab my notes, it's behind the screen. The main things with Pluto is he is going to be bringing up things that are very, very deep, because Pluto rules, of course, death, taxes, but mourning. It rules mourning, and it rules the psyche and deep psychological issues and concerns and things that we've hidden or stuffed because it's just easier to put things down than to face what is coming, what is bothering us, and what is creating a lot of fear in us. That's what Pluto will do. What else does he do? Let me look at this: death and mourning and therapy and those hidden forces, and who's in power and who's under control, who's got the control. And so if you really go into deep state stuff, you know that there's just a lot of power and control going on behind the scenes. From what I'm told, I don't follow those things at all. I'm a Gemini. I want to just do what's like right in front of me, and not superficial, but just what's in front of me and what is good for you and me in our everyday life, because that's important in staying present. The conspiracy theory stuff is great for those people who have a lot of Pluto in their chart. I don't need this today. So anyways, looking at that, so these are the things that are coming up. Pandemics and germs are also ruled by Pluto and the sign of Scorpio. And so Saturn's been there and recently, and he just moved into Aquarius, but the energy of that represents, the breaking down of what we think is solid and safe and secure. And pretty soon Jupiter is going to be there and at the end of the week, and I'll talk about that when I get to April 4th. So these are the things we need to do. We need to focus on, if you really want to do this deep work, Pluto is really asking us, whatever our level is, whatever we want to work on, whatever's coming up, those biggest fears are really what we should face, because, you turn the lights on and there really is not a monster under the bed. It's just you, and you need to work on your things. So if these insecurities and fears are coming up, address them. If you need somebody to help you with them, I can see where they are in your astrology chart. So I'm able to give you additional information about the subject matter and how to work through it. But if you need somebody even more professional, especially like a psychotherapist or a doctor, this during these next few months is a very good time to do those things, so you can really work with and work through, instead of still circling around. We constantly circle around problems and create the same thing over and over again, but just looks a little different, but it's still the same. So we have an opportunity to go straight through these problems and really clear them up. And that's what the big promise of 2020 really is turning out to be about. All right, so that's the beginning of it. Let me go back. And I told myself when I was doing, Darlene Chadbourne and I do a year ahead. She does numerology, I do the astrology. We started it back in November. And in this time period, all I could see was no retrogrades, waxing lunar phase, Mercury's up to speed. So from March 24th to April 7th, it is absolutely full steam ahead. So thought that would be fabulous opportunities. And I told myself what I wanted to do, because I knew Mars was entering Aquarius, Saturn in Aquarius. All of this is, these are my personal thoughts. I want to make sure I get some new things on the internet, figure out how to do automated classes, because I teach all the time, but I'd like to have some classes where you could just click to purchase. It's like huge work. I don't know how to do it yet. I really don't. I'm trying to figure it out, but I have time now, because everything in my business has slowed down almost to a crawl. So I now have time to do all these new things. Wasn't what I planned. Doesn't look the way I thought it would look. But we all have opportunities now with this new moon and this lunar phase that we're in until the 7th, especially, to take steps and do new things. And with that Aquarius energy, because on Monday the 30th, we're already doing these things, but on Monday the 30th, Mars officially enters the sign of Aquarius. And am I sharing? Let's see if I could share the charts. Let's share. Here is the 30th. And let me get my little face out of the way. Here's Mars in Aquarius, 0 Aquarius. So he enters that sign. Saturn entered there 10 days ago. Here's Saturn at 0 Aquarius in 36 minutes. So in the US, on the east coast of the US, where I live, 3:43 p.m. You can see the time over here. Hopefully it's not blurry. And you can see that that's when Mars enters Aquarius. So what do we do with that? Mars is about action, and he wants to take action, and he's ready and willing and able to do what he can to step into this new Aquarian world. So it's socializing and the internet. So there's a little thing going on now. It's not that we need to what's they called? Social, oh my gosh, I can't remember. I've heard it like social distancing. I've heard it like a million times. It's actually physical distancing. Socializing, we're coming together more than ever. I've had a lot of people, and I mean, I'm connecting through Zoom, and I'm doing this on Zoom just for the heck of it, just to see how it looks, as opposed to using my phone, and just processing and straight to YouTube. Try and make my life a little more streamlined when it comes to these things, because it takes a lot of time, a couple days to write the forecast. And, it usually takes me 3 or 4 hours to get this whole process the way I want it. And so I want to streamline something. So what are you going to streamline? Where are you stepping forward? Where are you taking action? That's Mars in Aquarius. Again, Saturn's already there. I'll talk about that in a second. But where do you want to step forward and take new steps and new action in your life? All right. So let me minimize what I have up in front of me. There we go. So that's what this Mars in Aquarius is about. And just a day later, on the 31st, 2:30 in the afternoon, East Coast time, for all of this, we have an unaspected sun, which means full steam ahead, no aspects to the sun. We can see that over here in the grid. It's a separating aspect from Chiron. So I just use 5 to 6 major aspects. Yeah. And so look at that, nothing. And that's just quite interesting, because what we have here is the main aspect I wanted to talk about actually was Mars and Saturn. And when I usually do this on the phone, I'm not looking at charts like this. I'm just looking at the ephemeris book, this little guy right here. So we get to see a little bit more with the charts up. Mars and Saturn conjunct. Now, Mars in Saturn, Saturn in Aquarius. Saturn is about rules and boundaries and restrictions, and Aquarius is about socializing and groups of people and society and humanitarian things. And so immediately Saturn entering Aquarius, like I said 10 days ago, a lot of people have been, you have to stay home, you know, shelter in place and not go anywhere except for the absolute essentials. And this is Saturn in Aquarius. Now, when Mars connects with it, I think over the next few days, from when Mars connects on the 31st and then moves beyond that, then we're going to start feeling really edgy and like we really need to take some action and do something. So there's a few things that can happen when Mars and Saturn are conjunct. There's the two malefics. They tend to cause problems before they help create solutions. And so if we're feeling edgy and antsy, find your way to physically move and be more active. I mean, I like going to the gym and I haven't been able to do that. I'm walking a lot, but it's just, the weights and things like that. I'm not doing that here. I'm in my house, right? Who is? I don't have a gym. I live in 500 square feet. And so I can get on the floor and push up and blah, blah, blah. I get it. But you got to find the motivation. And if you're feeling like, edgy and anxiety or too much energy in there, the Mars Saturn conjunction on this day can like push it to the edge, and we can get very argumentative and stressed out. So do what you can to dissipate that energy and find a way to use this. And again, take your groups and the people that you really associated with and really want to stay connected with and use it and figure out what you need to figure out with the internet and online programs, figure it all out. And I mean, don't feel the pressure of it, but just you've got to do it at some point in time. Everybody's learning new things now. So it's a whole new world. And Saturn ruling is also in charge of our careers and our reputation. And so everything's gone online for a little while. It'll go back to something like what it was, but not the same thing. So that's what we have going on in that regard. So a lot there, right? Yes, there is. All right, I'm going to jump ahead to Friday, the 3rd. And this is at 1:11. I just 11, 11, 11. What we have here is what is this transit about? I thought I titled the charts. It is when Venus enters the sign of Gemini. Now, on the day Venus enters Gemini, she's going to stay in that sign till August 7th. August 7th, that's a long time. She usually spends 3.5 weeks in one sign. Zip through fast, no big deal. But she retrogrades on May 13th. So she's going to spend a lot of months. So April, May, June, July, August, 4 months in the sign of Gemini. So what does this mean? I like it. I have Venus in Gemini. Venus is what do I value and love, and even how may I earn money, right? Using my skills and talents. Well, you look at Gemini. Gemini is the skills and the talents and what I value. Gemini is about communicating. It's words, it's communicating, staying connected with people. But Gemini sometimes can get on overload because we're just taking too much information. And at that point in time, we can't make sense of it. But at 9:15 on this same day, Mercury and Neptune conjunct. Mercury is the ruler of Gemini, and that means Mercury in Pisces with Neptune. That is confusion and things being unknown, and there is no clear information, or it is feeling overwhelmed and overload. So Venus just in Gemini, overload information, Mercury and Neptune conjunct in Pisces, as well as confusion to that. So we have a moment, we have some time here where we can feel very, very confused. Now, there's some positive things to this too. So how do we use this in a positive way? You take that Mercury and that Neptune, you meditate more, you listen to music, you sing, you dance, you swim if you have water, you play, and you stay very present, and you create. Be creative, whether it's painting, drawing, writing. Do all of those things that lift our spirit, that lift your spirit, whatever they are. All right. Do more of that. That's how we can use this energy, even if we are in one area of life feeling quite confused and not sure what direction we're going. You can still set that aside so you can now get into a more creative, intuitive, and spiritual place. So that's what I want you to do with that. Here's what it looks like. Here's 9:15. And here it is. They're way down here because the Earth is spinning, and that's when the chart moves, right? All right. The next thing I want to talk about is there's two things, and one more. It's in addition to what I've just told you. We now have Venus in Gemini, and she is making a trine aspect to Saturn. Now she does that at 1 in the afternoon. This chart is 10 at night, so I don't have the chart for Venus trine Saturn. You know what? I'll go back. Hopefully it's a new share. Hopefully it's sharing as I hope it's shared, because every time I do a new chart, sometimes it doesn't share the new thing. Like I said, it's my first time recording on Zoom. So here is the Venus is almost trine here to Saturn. So that I went back one. So when we have Venus trine Saturn, so the trine is easy. That means they work together. They will, not always, but almost always the same element. So they're both air, Gemini, and the higher octave of Gemini would be that Aquarius energy. So it's like, what do I value for me personally? Gemini, and I'm going to have to, I want to incorporate Saturn, which is grounded and structure, and what's important for the collective, because what's important for the individual ends up being individuals, ends up being very Aquarian, which is groups of people. So this is very solid and this very grounded, even though at some points here, we have that Mercury and Neptune conjunct, which creates confusion. All right. So there's always like multifacets of what's going on. There's always multiple things going on at the same time. So what we can compartmentalize if we like and focus on those things. And that North Node in Cancer is constantly telling us to take care of ourselves and do the things that help us to just nurture ourselves, like a big hug and a nice comfy blanket or nice cold drink with an umbrella. Depends on where you live. It's still cold here in New England. It's always that way this time of year. All right, well, here's the big one. Here's the big heavy hitter right here, Jupiter conjunct Pluto. Oh, boy, I've been talking about this one for a while just because, not knowing about a pandemic in November. But when I see this, one of the important things about this is like Pluto ruling all the things I said in the very beginning of this video. You can roll back, or you can go to my website, nhastrologer.com, and click on the written forecast, because it's about 1,500 words. I've got that all written out there too, so you can read this. And when we have Pluto making all the changes, asking us to do all the deep internal work, but also the ruler of pandemics, Jupiter comes in. Jupiter is the great awakener and very much expanding things, right? But in the sign in Capricorn, it can expand things just so they can contract. So what I see here and what my feeling is about all of this is we will see the numbers probably go up this week. I mean, it's just the trajectory of what's happening right now. So that is pretty easy to, predict, if you will. But when Jupiter, the expander, connects with Pluto, the numbers will go up. And it's not that there's more, honest to God, it's not that there's more people. It's just the numbers are going to go up because they're finally testing more people. I think a lot of people have been having this since January. I know a few people personally who went through all of these symptoms, tested for the flu, and it was a negative test for the flu, but it was everything that they're describing this is. So basically, I think their capacity to test and identify how many people truly have it, we don't even have any accurate numbers right now. Mercury conjunct Neptune in Pisces. When Jupiter and Pluto come together here on April 4th, we will see those numbers probably jump significantly. There's nothing to panic about. It is just the truth is finally showing up. it's finally catching up with what reality is. I don't see that as a negative at all. Now, another thing that we have going on here too, and that we're going to have Jupiter and Pluto together 3 times this year. Happens again in June, I believe. Yes or no? I don't remember the date right now. Darn it. Is it? It's when they're again at 24. It is. It's the end of June. And they'll be retrograde then. And then it's also in November. Somewhere in November. Yes, the end of November, middle to the end of November. And so what we have with this week's chart as well, see all these green lines. These green lines are quincunx. And we have actually a double yod key going on here. That means there's a couple of different yods. And so the apex of this yod is moon in Virgo. All right. This moon in Virgo to Chiron, the wounded healer, over here to Mars and Saturn. So the boundaries that we've been isolated in our boundaries based because of a virus and the illness. And so we're able to work through it and heal it. So a lot of people will become immune and we're really learning these deep, deep karmic lessons right now with Chiron there as well. And whenever the moon is at the apex of that yod, in medical astrology, that does tell us that there are illnesses and sickness typically within the native's chart, but here we're just looking at a moment in time. So April 4th is a big day. You know, it describes the virus. It describes how we're feeling isolated, that Aquarius energy, how we want to heal individually. We're healing, how we need to take care of ourselves. And April 4th is a day that a lot of people call a Stargate day. The 4th month, 4th day, and if you add the year together, it becomes a 4. And so Stargate day. So there is a global movement for meditation on this day. So if you look up just April 4th, 2020, global meditation, if I find it, I'll post it. But in the meantime, just Google it and see if you can find it. And do your own meditation. Do it with the globe, with the world, because it does. Not to sound too woo-woo, but when millions of people pray together or meditate together, it raises the vibration of the planet, and it helps all of us to heal this quickly, as quickly as possible. All right, I think I'm going to leave you with that. I sure hope this worked. The new shares, hopefully it just worked its way through without me having to go back and forth through the screens. I hope so. And please consider some support. I have a Patreon page, and that is here on YouTube. That is also below and I always put up little cards. You can click on those things too. All right. Thank you very much. And be well, stay well. Namaste. Now I have to stop sharing. I'm not used to this. That's right. I have to stop sharing and then blessings. Then I find end meeting.